Handsome Hobby here for your movies of the weekend. This is my first movies of the weekend segment, so um, yeah, here we go. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly explain what this is since nobody's ever seen this before. Basically, what this is that every Friday I'm going to post up a video about movies to watch for the weekend. I'm going to go through a list of different types of movies, romantic comedies, action, uh, trashy movies, movies from the golden era, black and white movies, foreign films. So I'm going to try to cover all the bases as much as I can. Growing up, I thought everybody watched as many movies as I did, but apparently they don't. And nowadays, from what I'm getting, people watch movies less and less, which is kind of sad because there's a lot of different genres out there. And since film has been around for about 100 years, there's a lot out there to watch, and definitely plenty of things out there to keep you entertained over the weekend. First movie I'm going to suggest is a romantic comedy called Midnight in Paris, directed by Woody Allen, starring Owen Wilson and Rachel McAdams. This got a 7.7 on IMDb and a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not bad. It also won an Oscar for original screenplay, so the story is good and the movie is good. So the story takes the character of Owen Wilson, who's taking a vacation in Paris with the in-laws and his soon-to-be wife, fiancee Rachel McAdams. And every night he walks the streets of Paris and somehow gets transported or teleported into 1920s Paris, where a lot of notorious writers and artists were living during the modernist period. This isn't your run-of-the-mill romantic comedy. Every romantic comedy has, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, and that's in there, which is what makes it a romantic comedy. But really, what the story is about is people's relationship with society and the world in general, and people's almost obsessive destructive nature towards nostalgia and wanting things from the past. The story itself is a journey of a man discovering himself and what he loves and what he doesn't love, and what his passions are in life. That's very general, I know, but uh, without giving away too much of the story, that's essentially what it's about. Personally, I love about the movie because it incites my literary nerd. It has Loki himself, Tom Hiddleston, impersonating F. Scott Fitzgerald, which is, I watched this movie before the Avengers, so it was interesting to see him in movies like that. And he's actually been in a lot of movies way before the Avengers. And there are other literary figures in there also, like T.S. Eliot, Ernest Hemingway, Gertrude Stein. So really anybody that loves reading literature from that time period or loves watching movies even from that time period can get a little nostalgia. So it's great for those kind of people, great for English majors or literary type people who like those references and know the biographies and backstories as well, these artists and writers. And the main character is a writer searching for himself. That's a story that's been told before, but this movie in particular tells that story very well. This is an American movie. It's not in my foreign film category, but I've seen a handful of French films, and for whatever reason, this feels like a French film. It's very simple, it's very humbling and down to earth, and it's one of those feel-good movies that you can watch on a spring weekend or on a really slow Sunday with your significant other. It appeals to, I don't want to say high-minded intellectuals, but people that are familiar with sort of the intellectual artistic scene. I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. If you haven't seen Tropic Thunder, you need to watch this movie. It was written and directed by Ben Stiller in 2008, and it is probably one of the funniest movies I have ever seen. Seriously, it's got Jack Black, it's got Robert Downey Jr. playing a black man, which it is racist, but that's the whole point. And it's got, of course, Ben Stiller. It has Bill Hader, Danny McBride, Nick Nolte, Tom Cruise, Matthew McConaughey. The list just keeps going and going. This movie got a 7.0 on IMDb and an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is really well for a comedy. Comedies don't do well just in general. And Robert Downey Jr. got nominated for as a supporting actor for his role, uh, basically playing blackface, which nowadays would not fly, but somehow Robert Downey Jr. pulled it off. If you're African American and you're watching this movie, you might be offended, but from my perspective, I really feel like it was driving the point home, sort of how Key and Peele do in their sketches. Of this movie is about all these professional actors coming together, and they represent all different sectors of Hollywood. Jack Black plays a sellout comedian. He kind of pokes fun on certain modern comedians that have made some poor movie choices within the past 10 or 15 years. I'm not going to name any names. And Ben Stiller plays an action hero from the late 80s, early 90s. The best way Ben Stiller plays an action hero. Very cheesy, very campy action hero. And of course, Robert Downey Jr. plays the melodramatic Methodist actor who, throughout the entire film, never breaks character. As he says, I don't break character until the DVD commentary. Eventually, these characters come together to shoot a high-budget Vietnam-like movie. And because of their prima donna attitudes, the director sends them out into the tropics and says, be soldiers like you would in real life. I'm going to take you away from the trailer. I'm going to take you away from all your pampered goods, and I'm just going to throw you in the jungle. And they get to the jungle, and what happens is that they run into actual terrorists and drug lords, but some of the characters don't exactly believe that they're in the real world. They still think they're being filmed for the movie. It's definitely that type of irony where the audience knows exactly what's happening, but the characters are just completely lost and confused, and they believe that they're shooting a film the entire time. If you live in LA or Hollywood and you watch this movie, at some level you're going to watch it and you're going to think to yourself, okay, I get it. It is a movie that makes fun of movies and at the same time is a movie that makes fun of itself. It's borderline slapstick comedy, but really it's just Hollywood satire 100% from beginning to end. You're going to love it. Anybody's going to love it. But especially if you're the type of person that watches a lot of movies, absorbs a lot of media, you're going to eat this stuff right up. It's great. The next movie I'm going to suggest is an anime called Paprika, and it was directed by Satoshi Kon, released in 2006. It got a 7.7 on IMDb and an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. Paprika is about a group of technology engineers and lab scientists and therapists that build this nanotechnology that can hook up to your brain and allow therapists to enter your dreams or essentially enter your mind. Someone steals this technology and ends up entering the minds of random people awake or asleep, and it's only up to the character Paprika to find this person, whoever's doing this, and reorganize everyone's dreams while inside their dreams. Usually with Asian cinema, the concept and premise itself is either very abstract or simple, but the execution is incredibly sophisticated and complex. This is one of the most visually complex movies you will ever watch. It's not necessarily beautiful, although the artistic direction and the quality of animation, of course, is just insanely good. But it's one of those movies that's probably pretty scary to watch if you were ever on hallucinogens. But beneath all this visual complexity and the surface level story, there's actually three or four very simple, heartfelt stories that each character perpetuates through their own dreams and through their own actions in other people's dreams. Ever watched the movie Crash or any kind of episodic like movie where it's multiple storylines clashing into each other? Then that's definitely what the story is. From a story perspective, from a visual perspective, I have watched very few full-length movies that come this close to avant-garde, and it comes pretty close to avant-garde because you're depicting and demonstrating a mismatch of many people's dreams into one dream. What's really scary about the movie is that it actually explores waking dreams, uh, and in real life, waking dreams usually end up in psychoticism, murder, suicide, those type of things. So expect that kind of content. It's definitely not a movie for little children. If you're the type of person that enjoys really artistic cinema, that enjoys any type of art house or avant-garde animation, then this is definitely the type of movie for you. If you're the type of person that likes maybe Studio Ghibli type anime, very childlike, very Disney like type cartoons, I wouldn't suggest coming anywhere near this. It's not that kind of movie. If you've never watched any anime, then you have to understand that just because it's animated doesn't mean it's for children. This is very adult content. I think it addresses a lot of messages about self identity and about how people perceive each other, and what I like to think of as the real self versus the inner self. You get to see people as they really are in their dreams, their most intimate secrets, and desires, and all that. And that makes it make that's the movie's biggest strong point. And that's the biggest reason to watch this movie. The last movie I'm going to suggest is a Belgian movie called JCVD, released in 2008. It got a 7.3 on IMDb and an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was directed by Mabrouk El Mitri. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, I probably am. The movie is a character treatment of the 90s action hero star Jean-Claude Van Damme. If you ever watch movies like Being John Malkovich, then you might understand what's happening here. The movie is seemingly mundane at first. It's not as philosophical as Being John Malkovich, but since it's a movie about a celebrity, it's actually done pretty well. It basically has Van Damme, the action movie star, going back to Belgium, dealing with divorce battles with his wife, taxes, financial debt, uh, and he eventually ends up going into an ATM, trying to withdraw some money to pay off some debts of his. At that moment, he seems kind of desperate. At the same time, at the at that bank where that ATM is, it's being robbed, and Jean-Claude Van Damme gets involved in this heist, and he's taken hostage for a majority of the movie's duration. If you've ever watched a movie where a famous action star or comedian shows their more dramatic, intimate side, this is exactly what this is. There are scenes where he's just so convincing, and there are one particular moment in the movie which is it just blows my mind. I didn't see it coming, and that one scene that I'm thinking of right now that I'm referring to is worth watching the whole movie alone. I wouldn't say this movie is so much for fans of Jean-Claude Van Damme. You know, it's not exactly parallel to movies like Bloodsport or Lionheart. It's more movies for film students, for film teachers. But to be honest, just as a movie, it's incredibly entertaining. It's just fun watching someone who's so seasoned, who's so good at what he does, just put his face right in front of the camera and just completely showcase all of his acting ability. If you're an actor, if you're a director, if you're a film student of any kind, if you just like foreign films in general, this should be somewhere at the top of your list. This is, for me, this is a very well made movie, a very well acted and performed movie by Jean Claude Van Damme. And it's a character treatment, but it's a character treatment of a human being and not of a fictionalized character, and how this human being uh, reconciliates reality with sort of Hollywood uh, perceptions and delusions of reality, which I think both people in Hollywood and people that are exposed to Hollywood need to understand. And that message alone is really what the whole purpose of the movie is, in my opinion. So I could keep going. I minored in film criticism, so I could talk about movies all day. I'm going to post up a video on Saturday for the rest of my categories. I didn't want to put all the categories into one video because then it would be like a 45-minute video. But if you want to keep watching movies on your Saturdays, then I could post up more video reviews there. I'm going to be doing reviews on video games, television shows, music, anime television shows, those types of things. And I hope I can be your guide as to what's good to watch, what's not good to watch. I don't want anybody spending or wasting hours of their life watching bad TV, playing bad video games, watching bad movies. I'll do it for you, don't worry. And I've been watching movies my entire life since before I could read, so I feel like I have a sixth sense on if a movie's good or bad. And I do watch bad movies intentionally, but I usually know 90% of the time. I usually know it's a bad movie going into it. So like and subscribe if you want any more. And if you have any suggestions for me, please let me know in the comments below. And let me know if you want me to review anything at all. Just let me know.